Hi everyone, welcome to the MBN Boss and Data podcast. Today I'm joined by Raluca Crisan, co-founder and CTO of Etiq AI. Prior to Etiq, Raluca was a machine learning and data science consultant for companies such as EMEA, Aquila, and Merkle. She's delivered projects for more than 20 corporates from mid-sized retailers, e-commerce giants, travel, telco, and financial sectors in the space. Raluca is passionate about algorithmic bias, AI ethics, and ML testing, and speaks on these topics. We're going to discuss finding meaning, purpose, and obstacles within data and AI. We're going to talk about Raluca's story as a founder and mission at Etiq AI, the impact of ethics within AI, and also what's the hard part about doing new things within this space. Raluca, thanks very much for joining us today. I'm glad we're able to get this off the ground. I know you've attended our Data Leadership Impact Forum probably about a year ago now too, and we've been talking about getting you on a podcast ever since. So thank you very much for joining. It's great also to have someone who's an ex-Aquila employee, and probably the first ex-Aquila person I've spoken to on the podcast. A fundamental part of my understanding and learning when it came from hiring data professionals and understanding the market actually came from Aquila. Back in 2011, I was working with John and Warwick. So great to have you on board there. Hopefully we can talk a bit about that too. But yeah, really keen for you to make your own introduction. We can go straight into that. I'm keen to talk about your purpose and vision, to find out what drove you to start Etiq AI. Also, what made you join the data industry initially and excites you in the market right now.
Thanks a lot for having me on this podcast. It's super exciting. Always have a chat and love this kind of setup. I think your intro was bang on. My background is consultancy space and doing projects for larger corporates and founding Etiq a while back. And we're at the moment we're a data science co-pilot, and we have this history of building ML testing tools and algorithmic bias tools. The intro was exactly what you said. I'm not going to repeat.
We'll go straight to it because I'm keen for our listeners to find out more about Etiq as an organization. You've had some fantastic success recently, but focusing specifically on that as well in regards to purpose and vision within the AI space. We're keen to find out what drove you to start and how has your sense of purpose evolved since you've enabled the organization?
My co-founder and I, we started because we were initially focused on AI ethics and specifically algorithmic bias. That's around discrimination and unfair discrimination due to errors in the systems. That was the initial impetus. Then we took it to market and realized users need something more comprehensive. They weren't just looking at bias. They were looking at a whole host of issues around making these pipelines and models more robust. So we branched out like this. And our latest iteration is a lot about really going to the fundamental issues that our users are facing and enabling them to build better. Once they build better, a lot of the other issues are resolved on their own. What they build is more robust, fundamentally more ethical, and doesn't have the negative impacts that you would otherwise. So in a sense, the mission underneath is very much the same. As we learn about the market and what users want and need, I think that changed the shape of the product fundamentally. It looks completely different. It's completely different things, but underneath is this desire to help data scientists and data teams build more robust systems rather than force them into regulation on top or checklists or stuff like that. That's not what we do. We think that's fundamentally not addressing the problem. What it was more about is getting these users to think through the problem, approach it creatively, and really come up with the right solution for them. So yeah, that's us.
We had obviously a discussion offline about this, and it's all around purposeful work within the industry. I've worked on and off within the AI ethics space, more within research firms, hiring AI ethics professionals in that capacity. So I've got an understanding from that, but probably not in the broader commercial context of what you guys do. So in regards to purposeful work, what context does that have when you are looking to build AI products and solutions?
Yes, I think that's a great question. In our working lives, we go to them, and a lot of times we maybe make money for a company, and that's great. And obviously that's kind of what we're there to do as part of that company. But at the same time, we're also people that need a purpose in life, right? That's the bottom line as well. I think there is that side of us. And I think finding a way to combine the two is really important, because if the focus is solely commercial, then some of the meaning, the fact that we bring something to society and to the world at large might get lost. There's a lot of different versions of meaning, right? I think a lot of the research now is super meaningful, but then there's more specific applications, right? People building with AI towards a meaningful goal, or ensuring that some of the systems work as intended, work well, and minimize negative consequences for the world at large. So there's a lot of possibilities in a nutshell.
No, that's great. And This is what I'm trying to get at as well. Is it sometimes the easy way and the hard way as a new organization when it comes to things like AI ethics and advising organizations on what the right thing is to do as opposed to the most profitable thing? So have there been choices where you've had to, between purpose and practicality, and have you had to navigate that as a new organization in the industry?
Yeah, so for us, we're quite product-led, and I think that kind of empathy comes through in the product as well. But we definitely had to navigate it. Organizations now are certainly on a journey towards responsible AI, but their fundamental agenda is towards more profitable projects or less costly projects, whatever shape that might take. So I think it is a tension, but it's a false tension, because what we're finding is that if a system is properly tested, it is not only beneficial from a responsible AI point of view because you can control it better and understand what it does, but it's also generally, I think the business stakeholders understand that this is a very positive outcome because they always want to minimize risk. It's not a terrible hard sell, but I think just about articulating in the right way.
So we're talking about product as well too. I am keen to find out more about the product. I'm sure my listeners are as well about Etiq AI and what you guys do. How would you describe what your product does for an AI or data science team, for instance?
So I guess on the face value in terms of the actual functionality, it helps the data science data teams visualize and map their codes. If they have a code of a pipeline or some sort of script or what they're building, and the data that they're producing or they're using for. And so they're mapping, they're visualizing, and then it also recommends things like what to test. And if it finds an error, it also helps debug it. It's the full cycle, trying to help these teams with some of the work that is maybe not the most exciting, but it is always super time consuming and slightly annoying. And I think from our point of view, we've spent a lot of time in this space just trying to understand our users. And what we found was that as practitioners ourselves, the complication in these projects, a lot of times they don't really arise from the complexity of the code. Like people don't spend all day writing super sophisticated code. It's more that every little function might produce an artifact like data or maybe even or whatever the artifact might be. And then maybe in one script, you have loads and loads of steps, like a lot of functions, a lot of artifacts. You have to remember all of this. So like, why would you remember it? That's not a human-friendly task, right? So we'd like our tool remember it for them and give them the information they need. And it does this for people who code without a traditional coding assistant. It does it for people who code with one because they're hard to, then you need to control them a little bit. And what we want to do as well is as people are moving into the agent world and obviously to do it for the agent themselves. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. It's a different kind of problem than...
Probably kicked off just before the AI boom. They had organizations in this space focusing on what you were doing, but there was very few. Now, let's be honest, there's quite a lot right now at varying degrees and various stages. Obviously, from your perspective, being a practitioner and setting your own organization up and working in this field, you've probably got a market advantage. But specifically when it comes to AI testing and MLOps space, what sort of unique approach do you think you have as a practitioner and your organization has in comparison to maybe others right now?
So I think because we've been in a space where we understood, in a sense, the hard way, right? The obstacles to adoptions, right? We were like, there's all these testing tools, like, why aren't people using them? Whether it's us or someone else, like they really were, even when they were deploying an organization, people weren't using them still. That's not a great outcome, right? So then we're like, okay, that's just not getting us there. If the goal is better systems, these tools, they're getting paid for it, but no one's using, this is not happening. There's no better systems at the end because of these tools. So then we realized, okay, it's an adoption problem. We got to make it super easy, right? So that's why this Copilot experience came at the right time, because it gave us a user experience that is very recognizable in the market. So people are not scared of it. They're not like, what is this? This is crazy. Super recognizable, but also it cuts that adoption. People don't have to read frameworks, understand how you see the new tools. They just get the thing, they test it, they press the button, and then it does it for them. That's what they wanted, to be honest. So I think that's the differentiator, right? The problem I explained, like, I think that, the MLOps tools right now, they're not doing a great job with code tracking. They're much more on the data side. And conversely, the Copilots are doing a great job with the code tracking, not great job on the data. So I think the combination of the two, that's where we sit. It's a problem that people have. So we're just trying to solve it, basically.
What I remember quite fondly from yourself when you were at the Data Leadership Forum, I think it was about a year ago we met, and the room was, obviously you've got 30 data leaders in the room, so heads of data science, CTOs, CDOs. I can't remember the specific question, but it seemed to be a bit of apprehension when it come to use cases and implementation of AI. We're only talking last year within these organizations. Some of them were enterprise level, some of them were consultancies. I do remember you jumping out and going, we're doing that now. Like, we're implementing this. This went from POC to production. This is happening, whether you know about it or not. It was good to see. And I think from this year to last year, there's a lot more people in the space now who've been able to bring POC to production. You were much further ahead, though. It was great to have that positive opinion on what's useful and what isn't within the space. There was a force for good within AI. Some people can be skeptical, let's be honest. It still is the case right now. There's still teams trying to figure out what ahead of AI is. What do they do? Where do they integrate? Do they integrate with a data science team? Should it be a separate function? All this random stuff like that's just getting worked out. And it will in the next 18 months. Just looping back in, sorry for going off on a tangent. But in terms of, we talked about like useful work there, in terms of what Etiq do. But looping back into ethics and the makeup of the organization, what's meaningful? Like, what work is meaningful for Etiq right now? What are you using that's actually helpful? What's the sort of meaning behind some of the work you guys do?
I think, this is gonna sound pretty bad, but outside quite specific use cases, we feel they would see bias tests and be like, what is this? It's a small thing for our users. And we understand it's a big space and you can get super overwhelmed and you might know about it, but maybe you just weren't in a position where you had to worry about it because it's not regulated. You probably weren't. So I think even like small things like this that on the surface seem small, like they make a difference because to be honest, why would someone they're already have to know the data of their organizations, the business stakeholders of their organization, 15, they have 30 methodologies in their heads. Why do they also have to know the testing approaches or how many definitions bias are? It's a lot of work. You can't hold it in your head all the time. So we understand it's fine, but even just we might have hundreds of tests and maybe only a percent of them that are related to algorithm bias. That's fine. But that small percentage will, over time, create the awareness.
Oh, I get that. And that's what I'm trying to get at, but it's moving into my next questions, is around ethics, bias, product philosophy within the industry right now. I've worked on a variety of AI ethics roles in the research space. We don't really see outside of that space, in a commercial environment, consultative product environment, from my experience, fully focused AI ethics professionals hitting that market just now. I don't know if it's there yet. I don't see it on the abundance of scale an AI software engineer. I think it is going to be ever so more important right now. In terms of bias, for instance, I'll get to my questions off when...
I think that if it's a large enterprise, you might have some of these roles, but realistically, it's not so divided. A regular data science team, maybe one of them can know a little bit about it. They don't need everything.
And I think that's where my misconception comes from, and probably the markets as well. Where is the biggest misconception coming from, in your opinion, about bias in AI? Do you hear anything over and over again? Is there anything that's sounding out within the space that keeps coming up?
I do appreciate the regulations, obviously. They did a good job. I think the regulations plus Gen AI issues have really, mainstream the issue. So I think that's great. Regulation is good. I'm not arguing against it, but this is not a checkbox exercise. It is very hard to come up with a solution that is good from all points of view. And it's not just bias and ethics, but it's robust, it's performant, it doesn't take ages to write. It's all the small things, right? But that really add up to a lot of different constraints for a system that can be quite complex. It's about letting the user think creatively and supporting them to think creatively to the solution to the problem, not putting a checkbox on them and then wishing them good luck, which is usually the regulation way. That's the misconception that you can just put some sort of control and it's all going to go away as a problem, but really just you have to meaningfully address it and engage with it. Which I think want to do. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but I think it is something that you emphasize with what you do, and that's why we were keen to stay on the topic of AI ethics. It's like a tenet, maybe unofficially, of what you do. I'm sure all organizations do this, and ethics is a consideration, but I do feel like it's pushed more from your perspective positively.
That's exactly right. I think so far it's been used as some stick to pick people over there. And it's not that at all. No one wants to do anything bad. On the contrary, I think, especially these teams, I was one of them. We were trying really hard to do a good job. That's not at all that situation that people are bad or evil. It's just really complicated and you need all the help you can get, right? That's the reality. So less beating over the head and more.
I wouldn't say it's as eye-rolling as governance. I rolled when I said that. I don't even work in the space, but I just know I'm coded to do it now from everyone I speak to in the industry. And I'm sure it's it's very important. It's extremely important. It's a backbone of every data team, but it seems to be no one really wants to do it apart from people who specialize in data governance. And I'm thinking that AI... I was just going to say AI governance is probably going to be the same thing. I think it's definitely getting looped into the same box in my experience talking to people. Like ethics and governance is hand in hand right now. And I think they're fundamentally different, really. So I don't know what your take on it is.
Yeah, to be honest, I think ethics is not boring for people in data science community. Governance is, it really is. And I think some of the uses of our tool is to help with that because they just don't want the documentation. So anything that captures what they're doing can retrieve it for someone else. It's no more work for us. Yeah, so I'd say they're different from that point of view. And I do want to say one is still exciting. I think it's still exciting. I'm sure there's a lot of governance, professional governance, so exciting, but I haven't seen much evidence of that from the tech side yet.
If it is for someone, that's important too. But I know what you mean. If you're at the front end of it, it can seem like an obstacle sometimes. Yeah. And I think that's what companies are going to run into when it comes to AI ethics when they're implementing these teams.
And I think that's where we don't want to get to, right? That's why I'm saying, like, okay, regulation, great and good, whatever, but it's a challenge. It's a technical challenge in itself. So let's treat it as that, right? It's an exciting technical challenge.
And like in regards to a leadership position in industry, really got to find someone who's an expert coder, an expert analyst, or an expert in governance, an expert in ethics, an expert in strategy and team development. The market's just not there yet for it. It's very fragmented right now. We always talk about the past, the data analyst to data science transition and how that fragmented roles and then the sort of data warehousing to big data and data engineering. We are just seeing it all over again. It's just part and parcel of the process. Roles get defined, people get placed in roles that they're suitable in, and then there's value added there too. So it's just that time in the market. It's quite an exciting time, but it could go anywhere in 18 months. That's the cool thing about it. We're going to have all sorts of weird and wonderful job types.
I think the whole LLM thing, I do wonder if we will have a data science AI differentiation. I think we already have it in some organizations. Some organizations budget a little bit and it's all there together. But because the way people work is quite different, it might become more specialized. AI will tend to increase quite a bit. And maybe data science will be a part of it. If you think of organizational structure, that might be the way to go because the skill sets are a little bit different.
Definitely, we're seeing it.
They might.
What I'm seeing personally as a recruiter, and this is just my experience with some clients we work with, there seems to be an emphasis on software engineers with AI experience as opposed to data scientists.
Yes.
Which is interesting. You just wouldn't think that would be the case, but it just depends on role to role, this tool set required, the outcome as well too. So that probably needs some further definition. So I think there's people funneling through from different environments into this one role where really there probably should be multiple options there for them where there isn't right now. So it's interesting.
I think unless the organization is doing some level of research in AI, the person doesn't necessarily have to think through the methodology very hard. The data scientist would have to maybe not do their own method or anything like that, but at least understand like really the underpinnings. So that might be a differentiator. So then from an engineer point of view, people just treat it as an API and it's fine. But when it comes to the testing, everything is more fun because you do need to, there needs to be a level of understanding.
Do you think there's a danger that we could potentially lose a generation of AI specialists that don't know how to present their findings and be able to sit in front of non-technical stakeholders and show them what the value is?
I think it's a different type of business stakeholder presenting. Like I think it's very use case driven. So I think you see more products or project management roles that do that kind of, but they have a bit of the technical understanding and they think creatively to the use case with AI. And then where these teams tend to struggle is with the delivery. Yeah. I think traditionally with data scientists, they would present findings and have a very good understanding of the business and the data, but it's less like a product.
I think there's an overemphasis on specialization as opposed to a balance within teams right now, which is great because there's a requirement right now for products and services and solutions to be had with various teams. But then something's going to come along where you're going to need further experience or a different way of thinking. You might have a team of the exact same person, obviously within reason. I think you know what I'm trying to say. So the same background, the same skill set that might struggle with various tasks. It's happened in the past as well. I saw a post yesterday about data engineering and change that's happening there with RAG being involved in automation, being heavily involved in data engineering. It was a controversial post about the death of data engineering and what's happening, all this stuff. It's been going on for a while, but far as I'm concerned, that's not going to happen.
I think we do see the whole spectrum. There's the world in which agents are just freely hanging out and doing stuff. And then there's a world in which that LLM not even makes it in the same building, not the same virtual environment as the data. It's just like they're completely separate. And whenever even that agent will not get close to anything. There's different worlds. We're definitely moving towards a world where digit approach will, I think, prevail a little bit. But right now, it's just so far out of reach for a lot of teams we spoke to. I think the closest we see people using copilots, coding assistants, and then doing maybe a little bit of automation on that, but not really letting an agent run code that they haven't set eyes on. But then again, you do have big organizations where they're trying to, I feel like it's all a little bit sandbox right now. So I think it's definitely going to happen. It's just a journey to get there.
I find it funny as well, like there's situations where we'll be supporting clients on helping them try and find AI engineers or AI specialists. If there is a title called an AI specialist, there isn't. Part of their role is to utilize AI the best they can. When it comes to technical assessments, some of these individuals or people might be going, oh, it's a good idea. I'm going to run code through this and everything's going to be great. And then they'll get penalized on that because they need to maybe do it themselves. It's not quite there yet. Do you know what I mean? The understanding where it's like they're probably being more useful utilizing this tool to make themselves efficient in this process. But because they've not done it manually, it's going against them. So there's still little things like that need to catch up with the market, the industry. This is what you want to be looking for. This is ingenuity. I'm finding that the traditional task, if we want to call it that, and I'm sure you've been through technical assessments in the past as well. I think that's on its way out with the utilization of AI tools because it's more sophisticated. People will be able to prompt something in place for it. Being able to get in front of people, let them understand what this is, what you're presenting, what the outcome is, not just from a technical standpoint, from a business standpoint. And I don't think anyone in that type of position or role, as long as they're technical as well, I don't think they're going to have to worry about these new technologies coming up because they're instrumental for the organization. It's a face-to-face environment, so a human touch. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not, but I'm hoping.
I think there's a lot of people who use Copilot. I think people who are more senior technically, they really understand the limitations. So if it happens when they see a result, but in reality, they're just looking for, okay, is there an understanding of the task and why this happened? Because sometimes the response is not quite connected to the task given. So in a sense, it's not really wrong, but it's not maybe 100% right, and maybe it's a little bit verbose. I think it's in the conversation that you get to the meat of why did you choose? Why is this your choice of function? What was your rationale for that? Why do you have 3 functions that work? It is that kind of small things, right? So I think that's where the conversation comes up. It does require a lot of technical proficiency and also a bit of working with the copilot so that you understand, I wouldn't call them limitations, but in a sense, just like the style of coding that they have.
Yeah, it's like writing the answer to an equation without doing the work. As long as you can explain.
Yeah, no one's going to make you write everything, whatever. Output doesn't matter in a way, just the thought process a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that needs to catch up slightly in this space, I think. I honestly do. But look, just back, and I think this could be relevant to what Etiq are doing in regards to, let's just say, when you're scaling, for instance, what would you look for in someone who's leading responsible AI efforts? What are the types of key elements you look for in an individual or a team when you're scaling?
So I think for us, fit is important. We're still a very small team, really, I think, in the grand scheme of things. So for us, everyone works with everyone, and it's important that there's a level of commitment. I do believe that's true for a lot of different organizations with our profile, where it's a lot about reaching the goals of the team. Also, we like cool technical stuff. We want to do a good job, which is thorough, small things. So that's one. And of course, depends on the role, but technical proficiency can be learned. Some engineering best practice, very hard to instill. We're looking for how you work. What's your view before you put in pull requests? Do you put a lot of work out there a little bit subpar, or do you just are looking for different things? You want speed at first and work around at MVP stage. But I think for us, because of what we do, we just have to be thorough throughout in a way, because otherwise, what is our point, right? If our goal is to check, if we're going to get it wrong, then it's not good. It defeats the object. So that's what we ourselves. I'm sure other organizations look, and it depends what their attitude to this is.
Yeah, attitude's a good word as opposed to culture as well. I struggle with the word culture myself.
Yeah, it is a strange word.
That's weird. Why would you want everyone who's the same in your organization?
Yeah.
And it's just like an organization have a cultural embodiment that you need to assimilate to. Probably going into the weeds with that, but all the best people I've worked with in industry probably would never be my friends in real life. I've got nothing in common with them. Not that they're not very good people, but you bring together a common shared value. Well,
yeah, I think that's the better word, to be honest. No, you're absolutely right. It is about what is their approach to the work, because the approach can be different based on the work itself, right? So it's got to match the goal of the business. So if you're in the business of doing testing and stuff, robust code should be on your list. Exactly. That kind of small things. And not to say that it's very hard not to have, that's like impossible, right? But I think at least in the back of the tool, it's starting a way in which like people have taken their time, not trying to just shove something out and hope for the best.
Yeah. And I know Team Etiq, even though you're small, you're very diverse. There's people from all backgrounds and nationalities within the organization. As a founder, looping back into ethics, how do you handle internal debates or grey areas when defining what's fair or responsible in things like model design? Is it an open door policy? Is there any specific ways of how you effectively attack that challenge?
I do like that question. In the early days, we did have a lot more debate, a lot more strong opinions. We'll see how that kind of feeling. Now, the more we get in the meat of it, like you have to remember our mindset is for the user, right? So they have to like it. So what we do is we try to listen to the users, and that's the person who is right. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that we don't find that there's a conflict. Like the user doesn't say, oh, I would prefer this to be unethical. This never happened to us. So that is a false tension in the industry. It's been around for a long time. I don't know why people think that people want something to be, that no one wants that. So we just try to follow the user and see what would help them to get to where they need to go. And where they need to go is aligned to what, we want the end goal of the system to be as well. So that's how we try to approach it. A lot of times people talk about the tension in the sector, but we build tools. We're not a team that builds their own prediction models or whatever. That's not what we build tools for these kind of people. But from my experience, the tension is a little bit false sometimes or bred from a lack of awareness. And I think once people are explained, for sure you shouldn't use demographics in your pricing model. That's just also a little bit illegal. Once people get told, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I just did it. It's fine. We're there now. That's fine. Don't worry. That was a while back, so I'm hoping things have changed. It's fine. You're not going to have a debate about it. The awareness just got to be there.
I get it. In terms of what, even though it's still a new industry right now, it's changing weekly, let alone monthly. And it might be, I don't know if it's easy or hard, but my question to you is, what is the hardest part of doing something new within the AI space from your perspective?
Yes, it changed. I think initially it was just very hard to get exciting. Like, it just didn't really have that much excitement. And this is before pre-ChatGPT day.
Yeah.
And now it has so much excitement that it's the exact opposite. I still think it's much better now. Like, it's moving so fast. It's great. So in a sense, it's much easier because people are more open. Right? They're more open to things. They've seen it work in a way. Like, they're open. They understand the pitfalls a bit more. It's just more knowledge about it. So I think that really is great. And now it's just about cutting through the noise, but it's so much more possibilities now, so much more innovation now. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's strange because you've also got, it is great as well. I do agree. I'm not saying it's just strange, but you've got a cohort of people who have been in the industry for a long time. I remember someone said to me, look, AI is not new. It's been around for 70 odd years. I understand that to a certain degree, but the way it's advanced over the last 5 has been immeasurable, really. It is a bubble. I still think the market anyway is as well. You've seen it all before. I'm trying to get through this podcast, by the way, without saying big data. I've just said it. But we saw it years ago. I know you have. I always say this. Everyone was sick and tired of that.
Data.
Big data. Yeah. Like, it's just, right. And everyone's got their opinion of it at the time. It was just a buzzword. I think it did have a context and there was a solution behind it. It implemented in the industry and then we moved on. And then other buzzwords. I do think, I saw someone post a job the other day and all they said was, it was an internal role and it was just AI data over and over again with the job description on LinkedIn. I was I get what you're coming at there. Everyone's just talking about this and it's poking fun at the industry. But it's been around. There's people who are specialists. There's people who have done the exciting and interesting stuff for years and all of a sudden ChatGPT's come along and they probably feel a little bit threatened by it. They're working hand in hand within ethics and whatnot too. But they're probably upskilling it as well. It's definitely not a new thing. It's perplexing to me right now, trying to figure out what is useful and what isn't. And I've had other guests on the podcast, what's applicable. Other people have had certain use cases, but I still think there's more to be defined. Very much.
I do have a slightly controversial opinion on it,
Go
which
for
is
it.
not really shared in my team. We have very strong opinions that are usually opposite of each other on this particular topic. But having seen all the big data science, buzzwords, and all the stuff, I think this one is very different. I think this is for real. I don't feel it's been created. Everything is manufactured in a way, but I don't think it was manufactured in the same way like the previous buzzwords. I think this is for real. I understand why people are threatened, because a lot of the workflows will be automated. I think it'd be foolish to say otherwise. At the same time, in our space, it's a little bit like with plumbing, right? You're going to have all these agents doing a lot of stuff, and then there's going to be a small data issue somewhere, and then nothing's going to work, and someone's got to go fix it. That's going to be a person still. There's going to be many agents trying to fix it. Someone will fail because it'll be something really obvious and really small, and you'll have the human there going through piles of stuff. So I think there's still a lot of place for people in it, but I do think it's a very interesting change, and there's a lot more innovation and potential for work from there than job loss, to be honest. I think other stuff will get created, which is not bad.
What I was trying to say, and I agree with you, it is here to stay, but the connotations there as well too. Like, I'll just look back to the leadership forum that you were at. The amount of people that were willing and open and they want to understand use cases in that room, but you could already see that the media, articles, LinkedIn, whatever, can have a compounding effect on someone's perception of the market, because these are experienced people and they've seen it before. So trying to navigate through to figure out what is useful, I still don't think it's getting there, but I still think there's more to be there. But I do agree with you. It's here to stay. It is different. It's
like I
used.
said, a lot of people are in the room. Even our small team disagree. Different people, different.
Yeah, no one knows. This is the good thing about it. And my next question you're going to probably hate, because it is about future gazing. So if you look at 5 years ahead, even 3 years, because I think 5 years is, anything could happen in 5 years, let's be honest. Let's just say 3 years. What shifts do you think we'll see, and how AI systems are built, for instance, how they're tested, how they're trusted? What role do you hope Etiq would play in that evolution as well too?
For sure. So I think from the point of view of our company, what we see is enterprise. For more type use cases, you'll see differentiated use case level tooling, mainly because an agent that does it all, even a whole area, like even just take marketing or something, there's going to be a lot of use case differentiation. And from our point of view, that means workflows to do with data scientists and data people. We think that's where the use case is from us. And what we think our tool will bring to the table is that it will capture information about the real outcomes of what agents do with code and data, and send it back to the agent to improve. And also for the human, an overview of what's happening. Right now, people are apprehensive about deploying these agents in enterprise setting, and wouldn't even call it production, right? Even in a small use case, I think there's still a lot of apprehension. So I think they're just gonna get the confidence they need. It's almost a counterpoint, like what actually happens rather than what the agent thinks or tells them it's happening, or what another agent is testing on. That's still LLM world, right? So they're gonna need a real world counterpoint to that. So I think that's where we see the space going. And there's a lot of agent testing tools out there already, but they're more about logging the agent's processes and activities rather than about bringing information from other parts of the system to the agent. So that's where we see the gap.
You probably think that's within the next year?
I think agents are not going to move that fast in enterprise. I'll be honest with you. Some people already have it, and some people won't have it for the next 5, right? So it's a spectrum. It's going to not be mainstream in the next year. After that, no one knows.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to definitely reduce my 5 year to maybe 5 months.
5 years, so we'll have it in 5 days.
I know, it's just exhausting to keep up with, to be honest. There's a few funny memes about trying to keep up with AI. Really appreciate it, Raluca. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your time today. And look, if anyone or listeners want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to get in touch?
I'm on LinkedIn, and obviously our company, there's a website that we have, but I'm also on LinkedIn. Would appreciate connection requests or DMs, or I'm very open to chatting about these topics.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks. We'll put some links on the page as well so people can get in touch. Not to your direct line. Don't worry about that. But yeah, really appreciate your time. And thanks. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.